I see y'all out there. Welcome to chess, ladies and gentlemen. All right, man, I appreciate you guys very much for stopping by, as always. So you guys know, we have the Champions Chess Tour Finals going on right now, and I do have round number 7 coming at you, and this is game number 2 versus Wesley and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. So all of my people coming from the Philippines, as always, I would say Maraming Salamat. Anybody who is coming from France, I will say Merci beaucoup. But if you guys are ready to go, man, let's take a look and see what we have for this game, son. All right, man, so we got D4, the rarest move in all of the game of chess. Nah, I'm playing. You guys know that it gets played all the time. One of the best by chess moves. We got knight to F6, so we start off with an Indian game. We do see the move C4. We got G6. We got knight to C3. We kind of have somewhat of a branching point. The two absolute main type of ideas that you have in this position are going to be the Grünfeld with D5 or bishop to G7. D6, they pretty much are interchangeable moves because, I mean, you're going to have to play D6 probably at some point. But we do see the Grünfeld, and I believe that Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is like a really big proponent of the Grünfeld defense. We got the move bishop to G5. It's a couple moves down, but it's still one of the top moves. We do see knight to E4 because the knight is not pinned. You have not moved this pawn, so you do have the ability to move the knight wherever you want. We got bishop dropping back to H4. We got knight taking C3, pawn taking C3. And like I always tell you guys previously, you know, you have the ability to go pawn takes here or just to wait until black does this. And I mean, you are going to have no problem getting rid of this double pawn. So we do see pawn taking C4. We got the move E3 trying to hit the pawn immediately, but we do see bishop to E6. And it really kind of just looks like black is going to hold this pawn. We do see knight going to F3. We got knight to D7. We do want to redirect over to B6 to try to make sure we hold this pawn down on C4. Sometimes you have to be very careful because backing up here, this rook is undefended in the corner. So if you start to kind of do stuff like B5, trying to hold all of this stuff down, you can run into some issues. It doesn't happen all the time, but just make sure before you start to try to hold a pawn on C4 with B5 that you are not giving too much on this diagonal or undefending this rook right here, leaving it subject to get attacked. But like I said, we did see knight to D7. We got the move bishop E2. Knight goes to B6. So now black is really just kind of holding this pawn at the moment. We do see the move A4, and this is a common idea against knights when they land on one of these squares. Is just to push a rook pawn and say, hey man, I'm gonna evict you from your place because you didn't pay rent. But we do see the move A5, and this does hold the knight's position pretty nicely. We got castles by white. Bishop goes to G7. We got queen over to C2. We got castles by black. Rook F goes to B1. We got queen to D7. We do see bishop down to G3, and then we do see bishop to D5. And black has very seriously committed themselves with this bishop right here. We do see the move E4 from white, and you pretty much only have two possibilities. Is going back to one of these two squares. So Maxime does choose the move bishop to C6, and you kind of have a little bit of pressure, man. I mean, you got the bishop, the queen, and the knight all hitting this A4 pawn that you so lovely, you know, pushed out there into the stratosphere. So we have actually reached a point in the game. If you want to try to figure out what white does about all of this pressure, go ahead and try to guess that move. Okay, so there really is only one thing to do. I really feel like a majority of you guys probably got it. It's not the most, let's say, thing that's going to come to mind immediately. But it is this rook takes B6, and that is what we actually see in the game. There really wasn't too much else. There is one other move. It is just going back bishop to D1. But you pretty much are kind of putting all your pieces in defensive position, kind of like you're just kind of like really held down to the protection of this one pawn. So you really don't too much want to make a passive move like that, but you can. So I would have accepted bishop D1 also. But like I said, we did see rook taking B6. Pawn taking B6, and then we do see the move D5, which, as you guys can see, this does trap the bishop. So you kind of have to go down swinging in some direction. Either you're going to take here or you're going to take here. Just kind of depends on how you want to go down. We do see bishop taking A4, rook taking A4, and you have this cluster, this clump of pawns over here. You got double pawns right there, and then you have these pawns right here. And I mean, you kind of have one pawn that's trying to kind of hold all these pawns back. So you kind of do have a lot of pressure if you are black. So the best thing that you can start to do is going to be to start push those pawns. Also, I mean, you would love to try to get rid of this pawn so that now you have a healthy pawn structure. So that is another one of the ideas. Also, we do see rook going to a2. Now, you guys, this is a very instructive moment right here because, I mean, it kind of seems like you have three options. You could go back to a3 or you can go down to a1. Also, it's like you don't have to go to a2. But one of the things you should be paying attention to is black. They do have a dark square bishop. So this should kind of highlight all the light squares for you. And you should start to kind of be playing with the idea that you want to try to live kind of on these kind of squares if you're going to be maneuvering your queen or your rook in any kind of way. So when we see rook to a2, this is by far the safest square you can put it on. Also, a3 would have been running into b4, and you kind of get a little bit of a tempo on the rook type stuff too. So you just kind of have to be careful when you're giving your opponent, you know, the ability to kind of attack you. That's why it is said, do not move your queen too early. But we do see rook to a2. We got the move up b4. If we did go back to a1, like I was mentioning before, you would not be able to take this pawn because this bishop is hitting that rook. So we do see pawn taking b4 in this position here. Pawn takes b4. We got bishop taking c4. So everything kind of seems like it's good. I mean, you know, black has pretty much still strapped themselves with the double pawns. But we have a really nice move from MVL, and it is rook to a3. We are hoping that we see a rook takes and a pawn takes, and then we kind of have a healthier pawn structure. Also, we could be looking at b5, you know, redirecting this bishop somewhere type stuff. But we do not see that. We actually see the novelty of the game, and that is knight to e5. The crazy thing is we are 22 moves deep into the game. So you guys probably were wondering, like, well, when is the novelty going to come up? The craziest thing about this game that I saw so far is this exact game up to this point right here is Tomaszewski versus Maxime Vachier-Lagrave from 2017. So you can see that Wesley did his homework. He's like, hey, man, I'm going to play you all the way till such and such time. And then I'm going to spring an extra move on you, which is knight to e5. And this is showing a little bit better for black. But it's a really good move, though. It centralizes this knight. And you're basically asking black, did they want to trade this bishop for this knight? Which is suggested, but we don't see it. The queen goes back to c8. We got rook taking a3, pawn taking a3. And like I was telling you guys before, this queen is kind of guarding this diagonal before and hoping to maybe get the move b5 in. But now we do not have that as a possibility after we see queen going to a2. We got queen down to c5. We got knight up to d7. And it's a fork. And see, this is the problem, man. When you're playing chess, this is, I don't know if it's the same for y'all, but this is the most irritating piece in the game because you always are going to get forked some kind of way. So Maxime does go ahead and fall for that. So we do see knight to d7. Queen goes down to b4. Knight takes f8. We got the move b5. The move that we were dreaming of playing if we are black. We got bishop going to d3. And black is trying to figure out a way to try to get their pawns rolling. So we do see after bishop taking f8, we got the move h4. We do see queen going to e1. So not only does this apply a check on the king, you are clearing, you know, the square here so you can start pushing these pawns. If you are black, literally, I mean, you're down a piece. So this has to be like your bread and butter right here. What you're trying to do is get these pawns rolling. So we do see king going to h2, sidestepping the check. We do see the move b4, bishop goes to c4. So you do have an extra piece, but you kind of have to work in coordination with these two pieces to make sure these pawns do not move. So you are somewhat tied down just a little bit. So that is a thing. We do see queen taking on e4, getting a little bit of material back. We got bishop going to b3, queen going down to d3, and then we do see the move d6, which might kind of seem strange. You're like, wait a minute, why am I just giving a pawn away for free? Well, you are opening this beautiful diagonal to this king, and that's kind of the reason that you put these pieces on a little battery. We do see the move e6, but Wesley So says, you know what, bro? I still got bishop. I got bishop takes e6, bishop takes f7 is going to come anyway. So we got bishop taking d6. We do see the move bishop taking d6. We got bishop taking f7. We'll check the king slides down to g7. And then we do see bishop taking d6. But I do want to back up just a little bit. After we see bishop taking e6, it might kind of been like, well, wait a minute. Can I just take the bishop on e6? Like, I mean, it kind of seems like I got a little bit of like flight squarage over here. So I could kind of run away, right? Well, it would actually be completely losing if you did this. Completely not suggested at all. If you did see pawn taking the bishop, you would be looking at queen to e6 with check, and then the king would probably slide down to g7. You would be looking at d7. Queen would probably go down to d2. And really, at this point, these pawns really don't too much matter because you are going to be queening your own pawn sooner. The bishop would be coming to e5 with check, king sliding down to h6, and then we do see queen to f6. And you are looking to try to trade pieces here with this queen and get a queen immediately. So you're basically just going to give your queen to get a queen. So that is why we do not see that. You basically just lose quicker. But like I said, we did see the bishop taking the king coming down, and then bishop taking. We got queen taking d6. We got the move g3 blocking this check. We got the queen sliding over to f6. And of course, we're not going to leave our bishop on f7. We got bishop back to d5. Queen goes to d4. We got king to g2. We got the move h6. We got bishop to b3. So if you notice, white is definitely making sure that they do not allow any pawn moving of any kind on this side. So you're trying to force black to either move the queen, the king, or these pawns right here and create some weaknesses in their position. So we got queen going to e4 with check. We got the king sliding over to h2. We got queen to f3. We got king down to g1, queen to c3, queen down to b1. Important because we are still holding down this square right here, and we are protecting this bishop also. So you have to be very careful with your movements if you are Wesley. So the king goes down to f6. We got queen over to d1. The king goes back to e7. We got queen up to d5. So like I said, you see how white is maneuvering their pieces to always make sure that they are influencing these pawns being able to move, but they're trying to create some mating threats. We do see h5. King goes to g2. We got king up to e8. Queen to e6 with check. We got king to d8. We got queen to d6 with check. King c8. Bishop to e6 with check. We got king down to b7. Bishop d5 check. King a7. And then we do see queen taking g6. And then we actually see queen to c5 in the position. But I think some of you guys might be sitting there thinking, wait a minute. Okay, so earlier what you were doing was you were trying to make sure you kept the queen and the bishop, like to make sure that they were doing some good stuff. So, like, can I just push pawn here? Like, I could just go b3, right? Absolutely not. One of the major ideas when Wesley saw was like, hey, man, I'm going to go ahead and just like venture away just a little bit with my queen is a specific idea. If you saw b3 thinking, I'm going to get rolling with these pawns right here, like I'm good to go, you would be looking at queen to f7 with check. And you are always trying to make sure that you are going to place a check here or a check here or a check here, which pretty much covers everything that black can do with their king. To make sure that you can double hit the pawn as soon as it moves. So after queen to f7, doesn't really matter where the king moves. You would be looking at bishop taking, and you have lost one of your very important pawns. So that's why we do not see that. We see queen going up to c5. We do see queen going to h5. We still have that check threat. We got king going to b6, queen to f7. And it is in this position that MVL resigns the game. Okay. So, like I said, the major idea that you're thinking about in this endgame is making sure that you keep the bishop and the queen on this diagonal so these pawns are frozen. And you are going to be able to just start moving these pawns and you will get some promotion going on. Once you get another queen or a rook or whatever you feel like getting, that is going to be all she wrote to the end of the game. So, I appreciate everybody very much for stopping by. Mabuhay to my people in the Philippines. Kamusta na aking makaibigan. Magandang umaga. It is really early morning over there. Magandang hapon if you watch this in the afternoon. I appreciate you guys very much. Ingat lagi to you guys. Mabuting pagbati. It's been a minute since I said that. It didn't come to mind last time, but merci beaucoup, mes amis. From France, bienvenue to my channel. I appreciate you guys watching my video. Merci beaucoup. And I'm gonna see you guys next time. Au revoir.